Good afternoon, adventurers. It is the Rambling Bard here, and welcome to Turkey Week. I am going to show you how I brine a turkey. For the most part, I follow the Alton Brown recipe, and that is equal parts water and vegetable stock, about a gallon of each. Now, I'm starting with half that because I have a small stock pot. But you want about a cup of kosher salt, followed by a half cup of packed brown sugar. And you want to add whole allspice berries, whole ground black peppercorn. You want some candied ginger chopped up and put in here, as well as you can see, a couple of bay leaves and maybe even 1 or 2 cloves. We're going to bring this to a boil, make sure all of the salt and sugar dissolves completely, and then let it cool. Okay, there's a few other things you're going to need while brining your turkey, namely something to brine it within. I have here just your standard cooler. I've got it nice and sanitized and wiped out. Got little fuzzies in here from the towels, but that's okay. Anyway, so we've got our brine. I added some water here. We're waiting on that to cool down. And of course, turkey itself. Over here, we have a standard baggie that I'm going to use to collect things, because today is not Thanksgiving. If you are starting this process, this part of the process on Thanksgiving, it's too late. So, cooking a whole bird can be intimidating. And I know this because the first time I cooked a whole bird, I was intimidated. So, I want to try and help dispel that myth. There's been a lot of other people that do it, but they're famous people that have huge kitchens. I'm just a dude with a single income household and not much to do. This is all it takes. You want to make sure your hands are clean, and when you're handling your turkey itself, that's interesting. I've never seen that before. A little plastic doodad. See if I can get closer. Handling the turkey itself, you don't want to touch anything else because raw poultry carries some stuff that can be pretty harmful to you. So one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to take out this beautiful little ding turkey's done timer, because I don't need that. Because I have a wireless, or not wireless, but I have a wired thermometer. You want to make sure your sink is sanitized as well before you start doing this. My turkey is fully thawed. This is a 19.5-pound birdie. He's been in the fridge since we bought him about a week ago. He's been in the fridge for about a week, and he's completely thawed now. So with any bird, you're gonna have some sort of stuff here right at the beginning, okay? Especially with a turkey. Looks like we've still got some ice in here. Dang. So this is remnants of the neck. You can literally just twist and pull that bad boy off. I am not a professional. I was not conventionally trained. This is still really frozen in here. Here's the thing. Removing the neck and the giblets is the first step, and that's what we're working on. And what you want to do is you want to just make sure your bird's open. I don't have the greatest vantage point because I'm doing this with my iPhone on the counter. Make sure your bird is open and you can see. It should just be a hollow in here. If there's stuff in here, then there's giblets, more than likely. Okay, check it out. Giblet blood ice. Ew. No, okay. So these extra chunks that you're pulling off, you want to stick these in this Ziploc bag that you have ready here, because we're not throwing those away. We do not waste animals. If we're going to eat our animal friends, we're going to make sure we respect all of them. Now look at that thing. This thing was in there, probably made specifically for this, to hold the rib cage open and hold the legs tucked in toward the body cavity, which isn't going to be needed until we actually get to the roasting portion. So that's some more just like fat skin here. Don't go too crazy pulling all of it off, just the really excess stuff. You want to be able to tuck this back closed. So don't like rip any skin or anything like that, but if it just pulls off, it just pulls off. There's nothing wrong with that. Here we have the neck. It's full of bones. Don't feed that part to your animal. And if that's all you want to do with the giblet is feed it to your pets, or with the giblets is feed it to your pets, or put it outside for the crows maybe. Just make sure you get rid of the neck itself for your cats and your dogs. It's not good for them. All that raw bone, or all that bone in there is poultry bone splinter and are really bad for their intestines. Now, when your bird's done being emptied, that is a heavy bird. There's gonna be some of this liquid in here. It's not blood. That is, I don't remember what it's called. It's basically liquidized protein. I remember correctly. But it's not blood. They drain the animals of all of the blood in their system. It's just red and pinkish because that's the color protein is. Now you want to rinse your bird. Just inside and out. Okay. Have to be circle thorough because this is going to go into brine. But you do want to make sure you get everywhere. Rinsing and patting the bird down is really most important after the brining process and before it goes into the oven. I am just cooking for myself, my wife, and my 2-year-old daughter. So a 19-pound bird is overkill. But what's Thanksgiving without the leftovers, right? So that's what this is. Nice big boy. All right, now breast side down. Going into the brine, you don't have to worry about binding it. You don't have to worry about trussing it or stuffing it or anything like that. We'll talk about stuffing in a little bit. All you need to worry about is getting it into a sanitized container with the brine itself, and make sure that your brine has come to a cooler level for the turkey. You do not want to dump boiling hot brine onto your cold turkey. You will cook the outside of it, and then when you go to roast it, it's going to be all uneven, and it's going to taste funny, and it might even make you sick. I'm not really sure how that all works, but that double cooking time and cooking the outside of the turkey just barely is going to stop the brine from working correctly at the very least. So you get your turkey and breast side down. Now you want to pile ice on top of it, which I'm going to do after I wash my greebly nasty poultry hands with nice hot soap and lots of water for at least 30 seconds or more. Then we're going to dump ice on top of this, and then after the brine has finished coming to a boil, then I'm going to dump the brine on top of the ice, and we'll add another gallon of water probably on top of that, because we want to make sure most of the bird is submerged in our nice briny mixture. So adventurers, thank you so much for joining me. I am the turkey-handed rambling bard who's going to try and hit this button with his nose now. Remember, everybody, I would say choose love, but there's going to be another portion to this, so I'm going to leave this here with my head turning red because I'm upside down and my hands not on the floor. Turkey hands! All right, so we've got the turkey breast down in our receptacle. We've covered it in ice. I bought, for that size cooler, I ended up buying 30 pounds of ice, 3 10-pound bags of ice, and broke those bad boys open, just pour it down on top of the turkey. It almost filled up the cooler completely. And then the brine had been cooling for about 15 minutes. I went ahead and poured that on top of the ice, because with the ice, that much ice that I had in there, I kind of overestimated. It definitely cooled it down to where it's perfectly safe. There was no steam or anything like that after 5 seconds of pouring it in. So as long as all of your ice doesn't melt immediately or over the course of the next couple of hours or the next day or two, that's the most important part. You want to keep the temperature safe for brining your turkey. Beyond the important part of making it taste good, and that being that you want it to be safe. That's why I'm stressing things like washing your hands really well. Make sure you sanitize your cooler. And again, make sure that you are keeping that bird below, you want it below 38 degrees Fahrenheit. That's refrigeration at least. 40 degrees is when you start hitting the danger zone. So you want it below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. As far as how long are we going to roast it, and what am I going to stuff it with, and how do I work that around with the other things we've got to cook? I've got to look up the formulas myself, but I'm not too concerned with the roasting time. I just know the bird's going to be in the oven for the majority of the day, and most of the cooking is going to happen after it. So the majority of the plans go to, you find out what your time slot is for your bird, and that's usually done by weight and temperature, and then it gives you a certain block of time, basically at 350 or 400, whatever the temperature is. You're going to start your bird for a little while at like 450. For 10, 15, 30 minutes, depending on the size of the bird. You want to get that nice golden kind of color to it, and you crank the heat down to 350, and you put a breastplate of foil over it. Again, this is all based on the Alton Brown Food Network turkey brining recipe that he not only did an episode on, but it's here on the website as well. So I'll make sure that I link the
recipe that I am using, or at least using the base important stuff off of, in the description below. So make sure you check that out. It worked wonderfully for me for the last 2 years, or for the last year, and I can't wait to do it again this year. It's a little bit different. Instead of doing the last time I had kosher salt, and I added smoked sea salt. So the turkey that I ended up having was this wonderful mix of being brined and smoked at the same time. This time we're just going straight brine. I don't have any of the fancy, I'm not adding liquid smoke or anything like that to our brine. And the next big thing is essentially making sure that your turkey stays moist. And some people like to do basting. My mom did basting. I've always seen people do basting when it comes to cooking turkeys. So I do have a baster on hand, and it's really just, you check it every now and then. Maybe if it's cooking for 5 hours, then you check it every 45 minutes to an hour. And if the bird is looking a little bit dry or a little bit parched, check it through the window first. You want to open that oven as little as possible, and that goes for any cooking time, really. But open the oven as little as possible so the temperature stays consistent. I would definitely recommend a probe thermometer. They've got a wire that runs into a metal stick that you stick into your bird, and it's got a digital readout that can usually magnetize on the outside of your oven, or on the top of your stove, or prop up on a little stand on your countertop. You want to watch the temperature really closely. According to the Alton Brown recipe, you take it out when it hits 155 degrees Fahrenheit, and then you let it rest for 15 to 30 minutes, and then you carve it and serve it. His recipe is for a 14 to 16 pound frozen natural young turkey. Mine's a little bit bigger, like I said, 19.5 pounds, and I adjusted accordingly. I added a little bit more salt to the top of the brine before I poured it in, a little bit more than just the cup, so it's probably a cup and a half. There's a larger volume of water than this recipe calls for too, so I stepped up that salt intake for that. You don't, for it to be a brine, you want it to be salty. You need to have salinity to the water. And granted, you cannot taste test it, because once it's touched that turkey, it has got raw turkey stuff in it, and it'll make you sick. So you're going to discard that brine when it's done. As long as you've got ice floating in it pretty much right up until you roast it, the temperature should be fine. But if you're paranoid about that, which you should be, and you don't have a cooler proper, make sure that you're checking your temperature occasionally on the ice water there for the bird. You want to keep it below 39 degrees Fahrenheit if at all possible. If it hits 40, it's got 4 hours between 40 degrees and 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's called the food danger zone. It might actually be 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Don't quote me on that. Google it to make sure. But the danger zone for food safety is between 40 degrees Fahrenheit and some 100, 120, I think. And every food product, at least according to the FDA and restaurants and stuff like that. So if a restaurant can serve it to you, then it's safe, etc. To avoid lawsuits, all that good stuff, so you know it's good. The rule is 4 hours within the danger zone, and that 4 hours does not reset when you get it back out of the danger zone or anything like that. It's like if you got a jug of milk, that time's not going to necessarily be 4 hours, but in the event that it comes out cold enough and it stays cold, the second it is in a not 40 degree temperature, you start that timer. So the second it comes out of a refrigerator, you start that timer. And that means that it's been out of the danger zone probably at least for a couple of minutes since it was produced, since it was packaged and bottled. It was, for milk or whatever it was, it's probably been out of the danger zone for a little while already, so that you don't, when you've got it, unless you're buying it from a farmer's market, when you've got it, you are getting it already with time on the clock, and you don't know what that number is. So you want to be really, really careful to make sure to control your temperatures. And I know that I sound like a broken record on this, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to edit any of this shit out, because I don't want people getting sick, especially not because of my videos. Check your cooking times, watch your temperatures, wash your hands. Okay? 3 rules of food safety. Check your cooking times, check your temperatures of both your apparatus and your food, and wash your hands and all of your utensils. No cross-contamination. Avoid that shit. As far as planning cook time is concerned, what you want to do is the first thing you look at is the block that your turkey's going to take, because unless you got 2 ovens, that's going to be the main thing that takes the most time. You can't do all of your cooking and put the turkey in at 3 and expect to have everybody able to eat. We're weird and we eat Thanksgiving dinner at noon across America. I don't get it, but whatever. White people that have destroyed a Native American and just like done a white savior complex to a Native American holiday. We're not even going to talk about the problems with Thanksgiving because holy fuck. So, join us on Thursday Morning Adventures. Check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/TheRamblingBard. My Patreon, patreon.com/TheRamblingBard. You can sign up and get all sorts of cool goodies just for pledging to me. As well as, last but not least, choose love. Thanks, adventurers.